We got trouble in paradise, y'all. Trouble in paradise. So, Steve Bannon, or as Trump calls him, Sloppy Steve, he is pretty mad at House Republicans, at least the House Republicans who decided to vote for this debt ceiling bill, which has now passed, by the way. The reason he's mad is because he's positioned himself as this right-wing fire breather podcast host. And he's doing the whole, like, I'm going to purity test these people from the right. And basically call them sellouts and things of that nature. Let's go through this fight here, and I'm going to break it down for you as we go. But he's going to take aim at Marjorie Taylor Greene, at Jim Jordan, at, again, basically everybody. Kevin McCarthy, of course. Everybody who facilitated this debt ceiling agreement, he's going to gun for him. So in media, I hear they say Bannon goes to war with House Republicans, wants primary opponents for MTG, Jim Jordan, and others over debt votes. So here he is on his show. Here's what he said.
Republican Party, those 149 who voted for it, who all have to be primary. Let me repeat that. All of them, including people we're quite fond of, and some who we used to be fond of, have to be primary. You know why? They have to stand on the debate stage when the primary season, and they have to justify what they did with the knowledge they had at the time of what went on, and then what the impact is, because the impact during primary season is going to be a lot worse than it is today.
Hearing him say people have to take accountability is kind of hilarious, because this is a guy who was pardoned by Donald Trump because he committed fraud on a mass scale. Remember, he was part of the We Build the Wall scam, where they tried to privately fund a border wall with Mexico and then stole the money? You remember that? I remember covering it at the time and telling people, are you insane? If anybody donates to this campaign, just know, your money is gonzo. This isn't going to build a wall. They don't have the legal authority to build a private border wall all across, thousands of miles of public land. And by the way, people were taking issue with what I was saying. They're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, this is nonsense. Oh, really? How'd that work out? Oh, that's right. I was correct. Of course it was going to hit a bunch of legal challenges. Of course, the people who were running it were questionable, and they stole the money. And then Trump was like, that's okay. I'm going to pardon you. And now this guy is out there, posing like he's the paragon of right-wing virtue and purism. You're nothing but a scam artist. So Marjorie Taylor Greene responds and says, quote, I'm done. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene fired off a text to fellow Representative Matt Gaetz saying that her rift with former Trump advisor Steve Bannon is very much alive. In the text, which was obtained by the Daily Beast, Greene says that she and the conservative commentator are never, ever, ever getting back together. Quote, Steve and I aren't getting back together. And if he keeps it up, I'll take the house and kids. I hope you send it to Steve because I'm done. The rest of the article went into detail about Greene's dwindling support among the MAGA faithful, especially since she voted to support Kevin McCarthy for Speaker in January on all 15 ballots. But the chasm between Greene and other conservative figures has only grown since the Congresswoman voted to support the debt limit deal. Recently, Bannon proposed that someone primary Greene in her own congressional district and try to oust her in 2024 after being disappointed by her record. Former congressional candidate and known Greene troll Laura Loomer is mulling the idea, but Greene is not about these vibes. Quote, Steve, Loomer, and any other piece of shit attacking me will not beat me, she wrote. Because of that, people have been reaching out to me because they don't like what Steve is doing to me. I'm at a place in my life where removing toxic and bad people out of my life makes me very happy. So here's Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert, who are on good terms with Steve Bannon. I guess they voted against that debt ceiling deal. Here's what they say to the group that voted for it.
Things are very fluid right now about the floor because McCarthy has to decide who's his coalition partner going to be, Hakeem Jeffries or us. And if he chooses, he can't.
The way the cartel works,
he has to be monogamous.
He'd rather have Hakeem Jeffries. We're going to that in the spending bill.
But we're going to force him into a monogamous relationship with one or the other. What we're not going to do is hang out with him for 5 months and then watch him go jump in the back seat with Hakeem Jeffries, and sell the nation out and underwrite $4 trillion in debt.
Here's what's amazing about this dispute. These people on the screen right now, Steve Bannon, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, and all the Republicans who voted against the deal, here's what they don't understand. How power works. Here's what else they don't understand. How Washington works. Let's think this through. Let's say they vote down that deal. Let's say they do it. Let's say Republicans get enough, somehow, to vote down the deal. I believe there were like 45 Democrats or something like that in the House that also voted against the deal. Which, by the way, that was the right move for Democrats, and I'll explain why in a second. What happens next? Oh my goodness, you are right up against the time limit where you have to do something on the debt ceiling, or the U.S. is going to default on its debt. It's going to plunge the U.S. economy, potentially the global economy, into not only a recession, but maybe a depression. It destroys the full faith and credit in the United States government. So what is Biden going to be forced to do in that scenario if you guys vote down that debt ceiling deal? He's not going to come back to the table. There's not enough time. There's not enough time to go back to the table and work out some particulars and get more cuts and get more provisions that you guys like. What he's going to have to do is go, okay, now I'm in a corner. I already tried the bipartisan way. It didn't work. 14th Amendment, there is no more debt ceiling. In the 14th Amendment, it says the public debt shall not be questioned. So that means there's a contradiction in federal law, right? And you're going to go with the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, over any other federal law that was passed through Congress. So he could say, 14th Amendment, there is no more debt ceiling. Then what happens? Yeah, there will be some groups on the right. Somebody's going to find standing. Somebody's going to sue over it. It's going to get to the Supreme Court. Now, remember, we're already way past the date now, but it's okay because there is no more debt ceiling, so everything's fine. And then the Supreme Court is going to have to make a decision. Do I slap down what Biden did, therefore plunging the U.S. economy, potentially the global economy, into a recession or depression, destroy the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, or do I side not only with Biden, but also with capital, also with the oligarchs, with the markets, and say, okay, no, Biden actually got this one right. You know what they're going to do? They're going to go for capital. And even if they don't, you know what the reality is? The recession or depression that follows will be squarely blamed on the Republican Supreme Court, and Republicans will bear the brunt of it electorally and politically. So there is no scenario where a right-winger votes against this, which works out good for the right. Now, the left, on the other hand, definitely should have voted against it, and many of them did. 45 of them did. The Progressive Caucus, people on the, the left wing of the Democratic Party, they voted against this. And for them, it makes sense because you want Biden to use the 14th Amendment. Even if he's forced to, you want him to do that because you want to get rid of the debt ceiling. So what Kevin McCarthy did was actually smart from his perspective, from a conservative perspective, because his options were get literally zero concessions about anything ever, or take some work requirements, which they got. They got that. And take your 2% cuts across the board for all the non-Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid spending. That's what he got. And Kevin McCarthy realized a 2% cut in spending and some work requirements are better than absolutely nothing. And then he's got these absolute knuckle-dragging morons to his right who are like, nah, you folded. You stabbed us in the back. No, he got a better result for you, and you don't even realize it because you're a dumbass. Because your dumbass thinks, oh, if we vote this down, Biden will come to the table and give us even more. No, he's not. No, he won't. He doesn't have the time to give you more, even if he wanted to give you more. God, they're so dumb. They don't know how power works. They don't know how Washington works. They don't know the options that were on the menu and on the table. Kevin McCarthy is just simply smarter than them and got more done from a right-wing perspective than they ever could with their virtue signaling crusade and their purity politics, which, by the way, again, I don't even respect it because it's not even purity politics towards a positive end. If you have purity politics on the left, at least you have people who are uncompromising and trying to get Medicare for all. Purity politics on the right is what? I want to starve poor people more than you. Oh, what a hero you are. Jesus Christ. So anyway, but look, I say all that to say this. Let them fight. Let them fight. Let them go at it. Let them slit each other's throats. Let them destroy the Republican Party because these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.